Welcome to the Eclectic Gamers Podcast. Today is Sunday, July 11th. It is episode 145. I'm Tony.
I'm Dennis. Oh, we got stuff.
There's stuff. Stuff happened. Stuff actually happened.
There's not only a new pinball, there's two new pinballs.
Who would ever expect?
There's a new gaming console.
Sure. Why not?
And there are a bunch of new video game announcements. So
that's true.
There's been a lot. But what we start with isn't all of that, but our introductions. And that's been what's happening.
Yeah.
So what's up?
Work's busy. Home is busy. Final Fantasy 14 is still fun for me. So there we go. That's that's it. That's literally, I have been working probably 10 plus hour days consistently, which isn't that big of a change for me. I normally work like 10-hour days because I'm kind of a workaholic according to, people who know me, like my boss, my wife, and, pretty much everyone else. I had to go in and get some dental work done. That was great fun, let me tell you. But no, it's been pretty okay.
Well, it's not as busy post my mid-year meeting, just sorting through some of that, have a couple of agreements, trying to execute new contracts. Still, some of that stuff's pending before I can start trying to find a new staff member and such. But I've got all my parts ready to go, trying to clean up on the last bit of an audit. Just trying to have the audit actually happened in June, but we're trying to get the final report out by July. So I finally heard back from the auditors, had a few adjustments, new things I had guessed at that I didn't guess at right. So it's like, you shouldn't do it like this. You should do it like this. It makes more sense. I'm like, okay, just teach me what to do and I'll do it. So I've been working on that. And I've made very little Gears 5 progress. I haven't played it this week. I played it last week, though. So I've made some more progress. I got through one of the open areas on that. And then over on the wristwatch hobby side, I've been really busy this last week because what is it with hobbies and drama? There always has to be drama.
There has to be drama.
And like the moth to the flame. I had to fly into the flame. And so I did a video on one of those, doing one of those analytical style approaches on, hey, look, here's an entity that seems to be struggling. Here's where I think they've made their mistakes. Kind of like what we have done.
Right. You did an analytical reaction video.
Yeah. And so that got a lot more attention than I even thought it would. I mean, it was for the clicks, but
yeah.
Holy cow. I mean, I'm used to pinball where people think having 2,000 to 3,000 is something special.
Right.
And this is no. Oh, gosh. At least it's not 2,000 to 3,000 comments because I don't think I could reply to that many. So anyway, but that's been keeping me busy to keep track of all of that and, try and be polite and respond to everyone reaching out. But that does not mean I have ignored the hobbies that we cover on this show, the Eclectic Gamers Podcast. Despite the fact that I only put 3 bullets in for pinball because I was like, no, we're going to use sources. So that's what we're going to go ahead and transition into. And for pinball, we are going to talk about one thing. Well, 2 things, but they're really one thing. It's all a matter of perspective. And my perspective is Spooky Pinball has launched one new game with 2 different names, Halloween and Ultraman Kaiju Rumble. Now, This Week in Pinball does have separate deep dive articles on both of those. And I have links in our show notes to both of those articles so that people can go look at the pictures, see what the rule concepts are, and explore all of the details to their heart's content. So what we would normally do is what we will do yet again, and that is we're going to have a bit of a discussion on this. Now, as I noted, even though the game names are different, basically it's the same game in that the layout is identical for both of these games. I see for both of these listings that the rules design are the same rules people, so I'm guessing they're going to keep the same modes but give them different names. So just real quick, the game design on both of these is listed as under a pseudonym of Chorus Barloff. Sigh. My understanding from other interviews is that these games were designed by committee. So I don't know if there is one lead designer. You'd think usually there'd be someone who'd be credited as lead, but that doesn't always have to happen that way. The game animations vary depending which game we're talking about. So on Halloween, it's Ryan Palicki. I'm probably mispronouncing that, and I apologize. And then for Ultraman, it's listed as David Fosma, David Van Ness, and Matt Frank working on the animations. The Fosma is code on both of these. I believe he did Alice Cooper's Nightmare Castle. So give you some context. He's also on rules for both of these, along with Bug Emery. Bug is Charlie's son. So they're doing our rules, and since it's listed for both, that's why I'm assuming that the rules are probably going to be the same, just, thematically they're going to be adjusted. That's my guess. Artwork, unsurprisingly, is different. The Halloween games art is done by Jason Edmiston, who I believe is fairly well known for having done Halloween art before in artistic circles. And then Matt Frank did the art for the Ultraman game. And then Spooky Luke did the engineering for both of the games, and the everything else is identical essentially as well, other than I think whoever handled the licensing. So Matt Reister did sculpts for both of the games. Matt Montgomery did the music for both of the games, and so forth. So those are the main leads in terms of the people involved on the game. Both of these games have gone 3-tier in terms of the options that you can choose. And this is a first for Spooky. Spooky's for quite a while done a 2-tier model, where they used to historically, going back like the Rob Zombie days and stuff, like have an LE version and a regular version. And then with Rick and Morty, there was the Bloodsuckers edition.
Right.
And there's a standard edition. Now there's a standard edition, a Bloodsucker edition, and a collector's edition. For both of the games, all of these on the pricing tier and the setup are the same. The standard edition is a $7,000 package, requires a $1,000 initial payment, and will be the last games built in the run. Bloodsuckers edition is the middle model. That's an $8,000 game. It's built second, requires a $1,500 initial deposit. And then the collector's edition is $9,000, $2,000 initial deposit, and those games will be the ones that are built first. The run sizes are different for the two titles. The Halloween game is $1,250.
Yep. And
Ultraman is $500. They have not broken out how many per edition. So it's all together. There'll be 1,250 Halloweens. And however the orders have gone, determined how many collectors there will be. You, in theory, could have 1,250 collectors, for example. Now, my understanding is that Spooky was, I believe, and I don't know this for sure, my understanding from reading online was Spooky was handling direct sales for half of the counts. So they had 250 of the Ultramans, and they had, I didn't do the math of the 1,250. I almost said 750, but I realized
625.
Yeah, 625. Yeah, there we go, 625. So they did the I think 50% of both of the runs, and then distributors are getting the other set. But I believe Spooky sold out in the first day of their share.
Right.
And given the distributors were handling the other aspect, I don't think there was a reasonable way for them to immediately know if those were all sold out or not. So those are the initial basics. I don't know if you want us to look at a particular one of these first, Tony, or, I mean, again, because the layout
is the same. And that's the thing is, I've said on this show multiple times in the past, this is the type of thing I think we should see more of. Just changing the artwork on machines like they did back in, the 60s and 70s, to put out a machine with the same rules, same layout, but a different art package, a different theme, just to pick up. I think it's a good thing for them. Lets them keep one thing on the line with minor changes overall that lets them keep most of the work the same, lets them push a little bit more. I like the idea. Mm-hmm. It doesn't bother me at all, because there are plenty of games out there that I like the game, but I think the theme belongs in the crapper. And if I had the option to pick it up as a different theme that I might like better, would be a plus.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And the only thing that really, I don't disagree in the sense of with Spooky and their inclination for more niche style licenses, this sort of approach makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it does.
The thing that surprises me actually is that they did it with Halloween. Like Halloween, and they're doing a 1250, which is way more than they have built of any game before. Like Rick and Morty is their current lead with 750 units, I believe.
Yeah.
So 1250 there. And then I understand identifying Ultraman as the more niche of the titles. I just think it's kind of interesting that you're doing such a large run of Halloween and you still decided that you wanted to do Ultraman, and here we are, and we're using the Halloween layout. But I guess if you're getting ready to build that layout, do it all at once. So I get it from like a functional standpoint. I just thought it might have been more interesting to say, instead of doing this, 1,750 total, what if it was 3 licenses and they were all like 500? So you got a 1,500 run of Ultraman, Killer Clowns for Outer Space, and Halloween 3. I had to go real obscure.
Real obscure.
Yeah, you understand. I had to go with the one that made the least amount.
Yeah.
So again, it's like whatever. But yeah, I see no reason to get upset about that. I guess I'm trying to think who would get upset. I suppose if you were like someone who felt compelled to buy every Spooky title, you might start getting annoyed if your OCD compulsion to own everything by a single company meant you were basically buying the same game over and over. But that's kind of
probably have other things you need to work through.
Hoarders. They're hoarders.
Before you get to the being angry at Spooky.
Appear on Hoarders so I can judge you.
You have personal issues that you probably need to work through.
You show up on Hoarders so I can watch you on TV and judge you. Do it. Okay. Flip it. Let me go ahead and just using since it's the bigger run. I was actually a little surprised. Online, I was seeing a lot of really positive reaction to Ultraman, and I wasn't inherently shocked at that, given that it seems like sci-fi, just even obscure sci-fi, may play better than horror for a lot of people.
Yeah,
I know plenty of folks in this hobby that would not own a game like Halloween because they have young kids, and they'd be worried that the game would scare them. It's the same sort of thing that's come up with some of the other themes that have been horror based. But so walking through, and again using This Week in Pinball's deep dive as my guide, they note that for Halloween, all of the editions they're gonna have 7 pinballs in them, dual inlane lifters. There's a triple interactive Michael Hedge toy. That's a weird thing. I like the idea. It looks kind of weird. I think those are like each is a ball lock, and over on the left-hand side of the game, there is a hedge, and then another hedge, and another hedge, and they're
hedging their bets.
There's a legless Michael Myers that pops out of each of those. It's simple but clever, I think. So, and it's not triple hedges, but there is a famous hedge scene in the movie that's playing off of, which I like. They've got stainless ramps in it. There's a drop target ball lock on the right-hand side. It's got the tombstone for Judith Myers, the sister from the start of the game. The tombstone actually features in that movie. I shouldn't say start of the game. I should have said start of the movie. So that lock looks kind of like a mini TNA lock.
It does.
It's got the little plastic cover and all that. Then they've got the lighted jack-o'-lantern drop target bank. It's a 3-target bank. Then this is the part where it's getting a little odd for me. So they've gone with 3 upper playfields in this game. One of which is the sanitarium, which is where the movie, aside from the start when he's a kid, he breaks out of the sanitarium early in the film. You don't see a lot of it because that's actually shot in the dark. It's actually really hard to see. You see a little bit of the fencing and some of the patients who are out. So that's one playfield, interactive. Then there's another upper playfield near it where it is, I believe, the Myers house, or at least it reminds me of that because it's got it's got a spinner of him as a kid, and I don't know, maybe it represents any generic house. Doesn't really matter. But there's a flipper there. It's interactive. And then they have a third upper playfield, but it's completely passive. I mean, that's what it's described as, is one passive playfield where the ball is just rolling along like a ramp.
So
what do you think of, let's pause there, Tony. So what do you think of the idea of having a playfield that you don't play on?
I mean, it's not like it's the first time we've seen something where there was where you were somewhere and the only real control you had was like nudging. Yeah,
but my understanding is there's nothing to hit. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Like there's no, there are things where you might not have a flipper,
right?
Path of the Dead,
but it's
Lord of the Rings. But there's things you want to achieve. Like I think my sense was it's just decorative. Like
could be. I think the whole triple upper playfield thing is just. We'll see how it works. I'm going to be very kind by saying we'll see how it works.
I think it's a gimmick.
I think it's
the
a complete
passive one is a gimmick in order to be able to say, well, we have 3 upper playfields. Better than was.
But here's the thing. I don't know that I've ever played a game where a full upper playfield made the game better.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I have to admit that I have struggled with enjoying. I suppose I've had better experiences with upper playfields than lower playfields.
Right.
And I'm not sure why that is the case.
And like the games, now there are games out there that have upper playfields that I think are good, but most of them, they don't have any playfield underneath the upper playfield. So it's just like a raised rear section, kind of like on Flash Gordon.
Right.
Or on Black Knight 2000. Where just the back half of the machine is up. It's not like it's not like the upper playfield on Game of Thrones. And we all know that that's the worst version of Game of Thrones, is the one with the upper playfield.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with Game of Thrones. Like, I don't think that upper playfield was badly executed. It's just the Pro is so much more fun to play by comparison. When you know that, you're sitting there going, so why'd they make a version with an upper playfield?
Right.
They didn't make it better. Even though you had all this ball control with the upper playfield, there were goals. It was full size. I mean, a lot about that upper playfield was done right. It's just ultimately though, it still wasn't better than just not having it.
Right.
Which is interesting. There's almost like an irony to it. You did all this work to create a decent upper playfield, but as decent as it is, it's still not as good as just not having it.
Yeah.
So
it's like, it could be the tastiest crap sandwich in the world, but it's still a crap sandwich.
So, yeah, and then they have a bunch of stuff on the lighting and things along those lines, and 7 physical ball locks.
Yeah,
which I think again
that's a lot of physical ball locks.
A lot of things that can go wrong.
I mean, that is a lot of physical ball locks.
I love physical ball locks. So,
and I can understand a physical ball lock is always better than a virtual ball lock. I think it feels better.
It's more immersive.
Yeah, it feels better to me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, is this going to turn into, with the rules where it's the hey, can I stack all of the ball locks and then trigger them all to get just insane, stupid scoring? Is that the kind of game it's going to turn into? Or, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, according to the, TWIP's summary on the rules, this is there's a hedge multi-ball where you lock a ball behind each of the hedges, and then once you've done that, you can start hedge multi-ball, and then you have a goal to, looks like there's what does it say? Reveal Michael behind each hedge by shooting the left ramp, and then shoot the Michael for the jackpots. Okay. Then there's a sanitarium mode. There's a house mode, so those 2 playfields have modes associated with them. Then there's pumpkin modes, boogeyman mini wizard mode, and if you get through all the modes, there's the night he came home wizard mode. So, I'm not clear, and maybe I'd have to read through like the rules of the modes, or if say all 7 ball locks are released at if there's a 7-ball multi-ball, maybe with a wizard mode. Who knows?
Yeah. I don't know. It's just thoughts. We'll see how it is.
So, did you buy this?
No.
Did you buy Ultraman?
No, but if I was going to buy one, I would buy the Ultraman. So, but that's just because for me, Halloween isn't when I watched horror shows when I watched horror shows, I watched the campy horror movies. It wasn't so much about Halloween for me as much as it was about stuff like Critters.
Oh, Critters.
That's the kind of stuff I was into, like campy, Critters, Leprechaun. That was the kind of campy, silly horror stuff that I was more a fan of back then. But because I have a personal love of just kaiju stuff in general, is why I would have gone with Ultraman. I've seen some Ultraman. I've not seen a lot of Ultraman. But just the whole kaiju portion of it would have made me go that way over Halloween. Now, if it had been like, one of the Jason movies, that might have been different because I enjoyed those. But even then, my favorite of those is still the super campy. Was it? Which one? The one where Jason X, where he's in space.
Yep.
And it's just pure ham.
That's because half the cast is from one of those sci-fi TV shows you watch.
It was like half the cast from like Andromeda.
I think
it was from Andromeda. It's like they just took time out of filming the TV show to go film Jason real quick, and then went back to filming the TV show.
They probably used some of the same sets.
Probably. Oh, but it's just the kills were so funny.
It was.
It was so great.
We just love premarital sex. Want to smoke some pot? For those that don't know what scene I'm referencing, you should go see it. It is definitely worthy.
It's so funny. Yeah, it's so campy.
I mean, my issue was the same. That's often been the case with Spooky, and this was true for Rick and Morty. I'll say how the game plays. So there in no way I would order without. I mean, I've always had a rule with new in box that I need to try the game first, but I can't even see the game first. See it shot. I haven't seen it shot. So they open up for sales before they even let you see the gameplay,
and they're sold out.
And they end up being sold out. And they note. And I have to admit, I was very skeptical when they noted in their feature description they describe these games as having lots of flow. That I see all these ball locks and upper playfields, and I'm like, I'm not sure that word means the same thing to you that it means to me.
I'm curious too how something with so many ball locks and so much. There seems like there's a ton of stuff to stop flowing.
I think you're going to be sitting waiting for the ball to get back to the flipper a lot, but maybe not. I mean, I guess it's all a matter in a way of perspective. It depends also how they execute.
Right.
They're not necessarily going from upper playfield could keep things moving along. So, there is that, but I'm not sure there's a lot of stuff underneath those upper playfields either. So, again,
right.
I don't know what we've really gained. It looks very unique, though. And so full credit for that, because they have continued in that realm where spooky games don't look like what's coming out of the other companies.
Right.
So that variety alone, I think, is what a lot of people are embracing. Yeah,
and I do think that these machines look real good. Both of them. Mm-hmm. I like both of them.
Yeah. There's a lot about it that visually I'm really impressed with.
The back glass on Halloween that's a phenomenal piece of art.
Yeah, I really like the back glass. I'm not as big of a fan of the playfield art, but but full credit, at least from some of the photos on TWIP, I think Halloween is the orangest game I've ever seen.
It is, which makes sense.
And I actually overall like the art of the playfield a lot more on Ultraman.
Yeah, the playfield art on Ultraman is better. I think the back glass art is better on Halloween. The side art I think is kind of a push.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I do like the collector's edition on the Ultraman. Has the speaker grills that look like the Ultraman head. It's so awesome. That's just so good. That's just one of those little things that just jumps out. It's like, oh, that's so good.
I also kind of like I think they've got different kaijus for what is the hedge pop out on the Ultraman, which feels a little better than here's Michael upon Michael upon Michael with a triple hedge, even though the hedges are super iconic.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't tell from the pictures if they're different or not.
Maybe they're not. Maybe I'm...
It looks like they might be the
nope,
same.
I'm wrong. I think I saw one popped out and one not, and so I wasn't thinking about that. I was looking at one horizontal.
Yeah.
Never mind then.
They lost it. It's all over. It's all over.
They lost it. It's the hedges win for iconic, not generic building. So. But I'm not so. My guess is that the playfield was developed with Halloween in mind, and then Ultraman just got what it got,
which is understandable.
And I think that's a safe bet, given Ultraman's a 500 unit run and Halloween's the 1250 unit run.
Right. I don't know about the knife handle shooter rod on Halloween. It doesn't look comfortable.
I have a big problem with a lot of shooter rods. I do like the collector's edition topper for Halloween a lot better than the Ultraman one. The knife moving is just so iconic.
It is, and it didn't cost an additional $43,000.
Right. Yeah. So, but if you will go on eBay, where people part out their collector's edition.
Right. It will be
super exciting. Well, that's it for Pinball, Tony. So speaking of super exciting, I want you to tell us about Nintendo. There has been, we discussed before E3, all the rumors were this Switch Pro was imminent. Not just imminent, that it was almost certainly going to be announced before E3.
Yeah.
And that E3 would have all these games that were going to be for the new Switch Pro. That obviously didn't happen in terms of an announcement, and we also didn't hear about any Switch Pro exclusive games. But there is news on the console front.
There is. The Nintendo Switch Pro doesn't exist. It's not real. They are putting out a new Nintendo Switch. They're putting out a new console.
Then what are you talking? You're talking out of both sides of your mouth.
It's not the Pro. It is a general update. Call it a Mark II, if you would.
The Mark II.
To the regular Switch. It's the Nintendo Switch OLED, and that's because they're replacing the old LCD screen with an OLED screen. The screen's going to be slightly bigger.
Okay.
It will look better because OLED just looks better.
Everyone loves OLED.
But the resolutions are the same, docked and undocked. The
4K,
actual guts of
4K
doesn't exist because
No.
the actual guts of the machine are the exact same.
Same guts.
The big changes are the OLED screen, which is slightly bigger. It's 7 inches. They have improved the audio. They have revised the dock. They've gotten rid of one of the USB ports internally and replaced it with a LAN port, so you don't have to get this weird USB to LAN adapter to hardline your dock into the internet, and you don't have to use wireless if you don't want to. They've doubled the storage in the system itself from the original 32 gigabit to 64 gig. So yay, but I mean it takes you can put a chip in it to...
I think most people I know have to have those.
Yeah, you got to have an SD card in it if you want to have anything decent. I mean, that's the first thing we did was get SD cards for my wife's Switch and both kids' Switches because I don't own a Switch. The biggest improvement, though, and probably the greatest reason to get one, is it has a new kickstand.
I've heard about this kickstand.
Yeah, the old kickstand was basically like on one side of the Switch. It wasn't even in the middle, and it was flimsy. And I think we've broken all 3 of ours at one point or another because we've got replacement kickstands for ours because they break so easy and they don't really hold it up very well. But the new one goes the entire length of the main body, and it's adjustable. It will lock into different positions, so you can put it in different positions. And it's just a massive improvement overall for people who play mobile and handheld. It's coming in a white and black color scheme for those people who have to have everything being that crisp white look that has become so popular for some reason lately. It starts going on sale on October 8th with an MSRP of $349.99. That's $50 more than the original version is currently selling for, and like $100 and some odd more than the light version, which is the one that you can't dock. It's just a portable, is selling for. And honestly, after October 8th, I think if you don't buy the OLED, you're just making a mistake because that $50 is worth it between the sound, the screen, and especially the kickstand. It's worth it if you ever plan on carrying it and using it portable. So that's where we're at. I think my best, my favorite coverage of this was the Penny Arcade comic, put out a comic where someone was in the kitchen baking and two other people are standing outside. Oh, they're baking. What do you think they're baking? I don't know. I think they're making German chocolate cake and oh, I love German chocolate cake. And German chocolate cake's so great. And the person comes up, who wants cookies? I don't want your dang cookies. I want German chocolate cake. But I was, it's what it was because the rumors were ever present. They were everywhere. But I think what we ended up with makes sense from the way Nintendo tends to handle things more conservatively when it comes to upgrades. So I'm not surprised. And I think it'll be good for people who don't have a Switch yet. It's definitely not something to go and replace your Switch unless you have to replace your Switch with, though.
That makes sense, yeah.
So, Summer Games Done Quick ran.
Yeah, I was watching that.
And it's over, and I watched, almost none of it because, Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, because you hate games.
And I hate games and all the other stuff. I also I'm just going to leave it there. But what I did watch was enjoyable. They raised over $2,890,000. This one was like Awesome Games Done Quick. It was fully remote.
Yeah, I think they had some of the hosts together,
right?
The staff,
stuff, but they didn't have the
the
normal. They didn't have all the gamers.
There was no crowd,
no crowd. None of. I can see the bonuses to doing it this way. I'd kind of like to see a hybrid in the future when they start going back because I kind of like having the crowd there also. But I can see where it'd be a mix of having some people in location and some people remote because it lets you bring in. There's a lot of good people out there who just can't afford to go.
The bringing in people has always been a struggle for them, especially international.
Right. So I think it'd be good to see it go to a more hybrid in the future because I miss some of the joyful stuff you get from having crowds there. I've heard that. What was the name of the game? It's, the one that I didn't see that was most recommended to me to go see was a golf game. Or to go watch a golf stream. It's like going golf or golfing.
I saw a really good rhythm game where this guy's playing a washing machine. It's like an arcade. It's some arcade game. It looks like a washing machine, and it was really interesting.
Interesting.
Where you're like hitting all these parts around the washing machine. I think it does close too.
That's how you get to do close.
Yeah.
I heard there was a blindfolded Mario run.
I did. That was there was a 70-star Mario 64 last night, and I watched that. And yeah, he got all this. He got all 70 stars. He's working on getting all 120. He's got 10 more to master. Apparently, that's a 12-hour run though. So
wow. Well, that was one thing I heard is they did a lot. They didn't do any of the big runs like they normally have. It was lots of 3-hour runs or under.
Yeah. I did not. I mean, I didn't watch. They ended with Kingdom Hearts 2, and that was just 3.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of at the upper end. Back in the day, they used to often end with an RPG that was 6 or 7 hours.
Well, and then I remember they went for a while where they'd time it so they'd run a 6 to 10 hour RPG. That would start around midnight.
Yeah, they'd often get through the night with something, and maybe that makes more sense in person.
Yeah, because you get a couple people who coming in and out during the course of the run.
Right, it's less people to bring in. I remember seeing some where there'd be someone who'd be like, "Hey, I'm playing the Chester Cheeto game," and he's at 4:30 a.m. because no one cares.
No one cares.
And it's if you're going to be there, sure, but you don't want to bring someone in where there's not going to be much in the way of donation or audience to witness it.
Yeah, because I remember staying up late watching a Final Fantasy IX speed run where I fell asleep like halfway through the game, and then I woke up and the game they were like getting to the end. So I was like, hey,
yeah. I mean, overall, I would just say it seemed like, and maybe just be more my tastes. Usually, primetime has all the really good games. It didn't seem like every primetime did to me this time. Like some of them seemed more meh, but maybe they were just genres that I was meh on. Most of the nights it was okay.
As long as they didn't have too many of the weird hack game ROM things.
Yeah, thankfully I didn't see any TASBot. I don't even know if it was there or not. I don't care.
I'm not a fan.
I think it's stupid. I have no interest in watching people use machines to break games.
Yeah. The glitched Pokemon Blue run where you but good for them. I like the summer game. All the games done quick. They're enjoyable. So there was a big video game auction, and sealed copy of the original Legend of Zelda for NES from the second production run, made in late 1987, was sold at auction for $870,000.
Wow.
It's from the smaller second production run late in 87. There was a different version that was run in early 88 and later on with the different slight adjustments to the box and stuff of the third production run and beyond. Apparently from one of the articles I read on it, there is supposed to be a single sealed unopened version from the first production run, but it sounds like it belongs to a company. The article I read said they've heard of it existing, but they've not actually seen it.
Okay.
And they don't expect it to ever go for sale. So that, to me, that reads that it belongs to a company or something like that.
Yeah, I guess.
It's just weird to me that there are sealed, unopened copies of games from the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We did start to collect stuff around then, so I guess it's sort of conceivable that someone might buy something and think, hey, this will be worth something someday. I don't know. It was different, though. Yeah,
that's just weird. It's like those people who refuse to open up. They'll buy Funkos, but they don't ever open the boxes, and they put the boxes in bigger shield protective boxes.
A box within a box.
Because you've got to protect the boxes because they might be worth. They're Funkos. They're not going to ever be worth anything. It's like all the people who are collecting Beanie Babies for their retirement.
My Beanie Babies, leave them alone.
Yeah. When you try and force it, it doesn't actually happen. So, the last big thing we have in video games is Sony ran a State of Play on the 8th. This was basically their follow-up since they weren't at E3.
Right.
And what was interesting is they announced beforehand that there were not going to be any of the big name franchise titles in this thing.
Oh, okay. I didn't see this. So.
Yeah. So there were no big name franchise titles. There's nothing about Event or about Horizon Zero Dawn sequel or any of the big tentpole games.
Uncharted?
They just weren't there. Nope. None of the big tentpole games. So I'm just going to go through the highlights, the stuff that I thought looked kind of interesting. There was Arcadegeddon, which is a very cartoony hero shooter. It feels like Splatoon.
Okay.
It's got that kind of art style and that kind of feel. It's in early access right now, and I'm not sure what that means on PlayStation systems, but it's not slated for a full release until next year. Tribes of Midgard is a 10-player action RPG. It's an isometric hack and slash. It's Diablo. Very Norse religion-based. It's got the season-based gameplay where the seasons have storylines. There's going to be 8 different classes in Season 1. The classes synergize together. It looks cool.
That sounds like it could turn out well.
Yeah, and we'll see how it goes. It is available it will be available on Steam when it launches. It launches on the 27th of
You'll
July.
be able to know then.
I'll be able
but
to.
Now you'll be too busy.
I'll be playing Final Fantasy. Yeah. Final Fantasy is life now. There is no other games. I I could be.
What is best in life? To take the Final Fantasy and to play it to the ruination of my enemies. And hear their lamentations of their women.
I would love to see a new Conan movie with Arnold as Old Man Conan.
You know, it would make a lot of sense because there's a lot of stuff from it that suggests he became an old king. So.
Yes, I would love it. It would be so much fun. I mean, that would fall into that campy movie thing. But that's not video game related. But it
was important to mention.
It was important to mention because it just feels like it'd be so cool. There's Fist. It's literally F.I.S.T. I don't write down the subtitle because it doesn't matter. It's furry space marines.
Okay.
I mean, it's a side-scrolling, grim, dark furries in power armor. The main character is literally a bunny in power armor. So, sure. Why not?
The Brotherhood of Cottontail.
Basically, furry in space tactics. I mean, it's just, but it's fine. It's cool. I mean, the art looked all right. Of course, they had to have the gratuitous, okay, so if we've got furries, we have to have a cat girl doing all sexy pose because, and beating people up because that's how that stuff is.
Yes, that's a requirement.
That's just a requirement in this type of thing. So it's coming out on September 7th. If you're a big side-scrolling shooter, or it's not shooter, but a side-scrolling game person, maybe, who knows? I don't know. It just cracked me up that it's called Fist.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, the power armor has a giant fist. Okay, it's fine. But there's Sifu Fight Club has been delayed to 2022.
I'm not familiar with it.
It was supposed to come out later this year. It's a martial arts brawler, but it the basics, from what I've read, are that you're a martial arts student who is going after revenge. But it has like an aging mechanic where your character, like years pass and your character gets older.
Oh, okay.
But what I really liked was during the trailer itself, they'd show, like your character fighting and stuff, and then it'd show like your age, and then it'd show the age, and it would scroll up, and you're, older, and it just kept doing that, and it kept showing your character getting older and older and older as you fight through stuff, and then when it ended, it flashed up the title of the game and the release of whatever 2021, and then it scrolled up exactly like they did the age thing and said 2022. So they just kind of they segued the whole theme through it.
That's pretty clever.
It was really clever. I thought it worked really well. I was actually kind of like, that I can handle that. That's a neat way to do it. Jet the Far Shore. This game looks beautiful. It is an exploration game that has some combat, but it's not combat centric. It's literally about exploration, and it's not about explore, find resources, exploit resources. It looks like it's pretty much just about exploring and investigating a planet. And you fly around in this little jet pod thing.
Okay.
And it's got a very, very artsy art style. I thought it looked pretty cool. And the last thing I've got is the game that nobody knew we needed. Death Stranding. Director's cut.
I never knew we needed the first Death Stranding.
I didn't know we needed a director's cut. It's a Kojima thing. I thought it was pretty much the whole point was just,
apparently he was held back.
Apparently somebody held Kojima back from his Kojima Studios release of his Kojima game.
Kojima fights against himself.
So yeah, he held himself back. He felt bad. They added new enemies, new missions, new weapons. They did a whole bunch of other improvements and changes, and I don't know. I didn't realize we needed this. I never played Death Stranding. I never got that interested in it in the first place.
Yeah.
So, but that is the whole new thing, completely expanded, remastered for PS5.
Sweet.
So, yeah, we'll see. Maybe it's like the Snyder cut of.
Yeah, that's probably what it's Snyder cut.
It's the Snyder Cut. We need to release the Snyder Cut of everything.
Yes. It's all precious.
So, alrighty. That's all I've got in video games today. There are links to the trailers for this from the Sony State of Play that I included. So you should be able to track those down. And that's what we got.
All right. Well, if people want to track us down, they can email us at eclecticgamerspodcast@gmail.com or go to facebook.com/eclecticgamerspodcast.
We're on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram as eclectic_gamers.
And we'll be back in a couple weeks. Will there be yet another pinball release?
Maybe
Surely
there'll
not.
be 2 more. 3 more.
They'll have the same layout.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Beautiful. More beautiful. Goodbye, everybody.
See ya.